Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Friday, January the 2nd, 2026. Of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That of course goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. Let's see. So as I said, I'm just gonna, we're just gonna wait a couple minutes before I talk about what's on tap for tonight. So I did finish off, of course, watching cartoons from that came out in March of 1944. Um, some snafu, some private snafu, of course. Couple of interesting ones. Private Snafu versus Malaria Mike, which shows what happens when you don't take precautions against malaria. And Snafu per man, who basically rather than studying like his fellow soldiers, Snafu decides that if he had superpowers, he'd probably just be able to beat Hitler all in one, without really having much knowledge. So um, let's see. Some, of course, other cartoons that, of course, we watched. Of course, Little Lulu. Little Lulu. Making messes in her cartoon, and Mandy telling her that a little birdie told her, got her in trouble, and so she's going around chasing birds, thinking that birds are tattling on her. That's a cute little thing. So let's see, we're at what? Well, wow, already at 2.5 minutes here. So, and then of course saw swing shift. Well, actually, no, I didn't because they didn't have that particular. Um, Actually, yeah, they did. Actually, the Greatest Man in Siam Swing Symphony. I did that one. So now we're coming up on 3 minutes here. So let me talk about what's on tap for tonight. Of course, so got a couple articles. Actually, I kind of saw them last night and just pushed them to tonight so we could do some stuff. With the from last night with the cartoon news. Um, so tonight, there's a couple articles. One from Mounting in the Comics, one from Bleeding Fool. So the first one we're going to look at is, I guess there's some new trailers out for the upcoming season of Bleach Thousand Year Blood War. We're going to look at that. We're going to also look at an article on Bleeding Fool, Bleeding Fool, in regards to, I guess they've now put out a 30th anniversary trailer for Evangelion. We'll look at that. We'll get, of course, caught up on all the latest in terms of pro wrestling news. Get caught up on last night's Impact and Ring of Honor, including a pretty interesting announcement that came out of Ring of Honor last night, in regards to a particular talent, Madison Rain. And then we'll wrap things up with, of course, this day in Nietzsche history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead? Let's get going. Let's get started on the material here. Let me grab the stuff here. And of course, as always, we'll also be wrapping things up with this day in Nietzsche history. So, anyways, with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's take a look back at, of course, let's take a look at some of the headlines here. Get right into this first article here. And again, one last friendly reminder before I get started here, of course, you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. It'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. All right, so here we go. Bleach, in smaller quotes here, 1,000-Year Blood War, smaller quote, Unsheathes, Part 4, release date, Tide Kubo reveals anime original scenes featuring adult Hitsugaya. So, just in case you don't remember, guys, so Toshio Hitsugaya is one of the captains, and he's the captain of, I think it's Squad 10, and he looks kind of more like a teenager. Looks kind of like about 13, 14, 15. So this one may be more of a case where they now depicting him as looking older now, looking more like an adult. So, well, let's go ahead and article by Nerdigans Inc. published December 31st, a couple days ago. So I guess there's a scene right there. So let's see what happens here. So, in making sure fans end the year with their Bankai type turned up to an all-time high, Shueisha blew away this holiday season with the reveal of not just the trailer for the long-awaited Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War Part 4, The Calamity, but also official confirmation of its release date. And there's Ichigo Kurosaki launches assault on Yawak. Bleach 1,000. So there's Ichigo right there, looking older as well. Hands down, one of the most anticipated releases of the coming year, these production updates for The Calamity were unveiled the weekend before Christmas, courtesy of the series Jump Festa 2025 Super Stage panel, where the news was delivered by the voice actors for Ichigo Kurosaki, voiced in the Japanese by Masakazu Morita, who provides the voice of Shin in Kingdom, Ishida Uryu, whose voice is provided by Noriaki Sugiyama, who provides the voice of Grim in Twisted Wonderland, Orihime Inoue, whose voice is provided by Yuki Matsuoka, who is the voice of Note in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, and Chad Yatsutora, who is voiced by Hiroki Yatsumoto, who provides the voice of Sharon in Fire Force. So, though brief in its runtime, said teaser trailer opens with a montage of still shots taken from across the three realms: Huerco Mundo, the Soul Society, and the human realm, before snapping viewers back to the reality that come the start of the Calamity and its final battle. The Quincy King, Yawak, who is voiced by Takayuki Sugo, who provides the voice of Shinpachi Nagakura in Golden Kamui. Shinpachi Nagakura, I think he was one of the members of the Shinsengumi, if I remember correctly. Anyways, will have terrifyingly transcended, quote, omniscience and omnipotence, unquote, by gaining full control over the Almighty and the Soul King's combined powers. While Ichigo and crew seem completely outmatched on the surface, the Quincy King, as revealed in Part 3 season finale, still has a glaring Achilles heel in his other half. Smaller quotes there. Jungram Hachwa, who's voiced in the Japanese by Yuichiro Umehara, who provided the voice of Leona Kingscholar in Twisted Wonderland. The Sternritter Grandmaster, who receives access to a weaker version of the Almighty whenever the latter falls asleep, and whose recent use of the power has revealed the forthcoming betrayal by Yawak. Though powerless to change the future outright, Jungrum will eventually come to stand against his former partner. His attempted defiance ultimately opening up the way for Ichigo, as seen in the teaser's big bang of a conclusion, to tap into his ultimate Horn of Salvation form. And there's the person we were just talking about right there. See if anybody commenting yet or anything like that. Oh, I guess not. All right. Closing with the confirmation that the Calamity will begin airing this July. The trailer was followed up by the onstage screening of a video interview with Bleach creator Tite Kubo, who, per a translation provided by Twitter user Ichigo Taicho 0, informed fans, quote, regarding my role as chief supervisor for the anime and the final core. The final core is called The Calamity, and as of now, I've already finished supervising nearly all of the storyboards and related material, unquote. Quote, with about half of the voice recording sessions also completed, so I feel like we've hit a major turning point, unquote. He added, quote, in any case, I've been deeply involved in every part of the production, and I've been part of everything one way or another. I think it's coming together quite nicely, or rather, I'm honestly looking forward to it myself. Unquote. From there, asked as to which scene from part 4, if any, he was looking forward to seeing on screen, the mangaka asserted, quote, how should I put it? Since there are a lot of expectations riding on it, I really hope it turns out great. The thing with Hitsugaya is in it too. Aside from that, there is also some original content this time, in parentheses, not in the manga, and those parts personally have me quite curious about how they'll play out, unquote. Drawing his message to a close, Kubo exclaimed, quote, to all the fans, it was finally announced that The Calamity will air in July next year. With that announcement, I personally feel a bit relieved. I hope everyone can look forward to it, unquote. As noted above in the trailer and by Kubo himself, Bleach Thousand Year Blood War, Part 4, The Calamity, is currently on track to hit Disney Plus in July 2026. All right, so there we go. So there we go with that one. So now we'll get ready to move on to the next. And I did, even though, there is another big event coming up this weekend on the wrestling side, and I'll talk about that as well. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the other article we're going to do tonight. Bleeding Fool. Is in regards to Evangelion. Alrighty then. So Evangelion 30th anniversary short premiering in Japan in February. Article by Jameson Ashley, published yesterday. So 30th anniversary, and you see the head of the organization there. You see Shinji, Misato, and Ritsuko right there. So, a new Neon Genesis Evangelion film has been officially announced for Ava Fest 2026, marking the franchise's 30th anniversary, with new animation overseen by original creator Hideaki Anno. So we've been talking a lot about Hideaki Anno of late, of course. The short, titled Evangelion 30th Anniversary Special Performance, is a newly produced work created exclusively for the anniversary event. According to the press release, it will run for approximately 13 minutes and will be screened as a world premiere in Yokohama, Japan on February 21st, 2026. Anno is credited with planning, script, and overall supervision, while Naoyuki Asano, who served as animation director for Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, will direct the project. Longtime Evangelion collaborators Kazuya Tsurumaki, Shinji Higuchi, and Iki Todoroki are also involved as supervisors. Of course, there's Ray right there. Hey, Ayami. Screenings for the short film will take place once per day between Ava Fest, starting from February 21st to February 23rd. Access to the film will also be limited to attendees holding a ticket to the event. No story details, characters, or setting have been revealed, and the project has not been positioned as a sequel or continuation of the rebuild films. The only thing currently known is that it's being produced specifically for the event. No announcement of a wider theatrical streaming or home release. The 30th anniversary short film is the first newly produced Evangelion work for public screening since Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, released in 2021, while Ava fans will be eager to find out what's in store for the series. It's not the only Ava-related announcement generating attention. Yuko Miyamura, best known as the voice of Asuka Langley Shoryu, revealed that she is officially stepping into the VTuber world with a brand new avatar. Wow, okay. Interesting. So that's actually a pretty quick article then. Let's see. Are we on time? Let me see if I can. Maybe I'll try to find one more. That one kind of went shorter than I thought it would. Well, let me see if I can find another quickie, maybe. Let's see now. Just trying to see one last thing. Yeah, nothing really new. Okay. All right. So with that, then let's see. Oh wait, did I even? Yeah, okay. We did there. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead then and move on to rushing a wrap up here because actually there's even a little bit more than I initially thought because not only do we have, of course, um, obviously some news from, of course, Ring of Honor to go over. Obviously looking back to last night's Impact and Ring of Honor news, looking ahead to tonight's SmackDown, um, tomorrow night's AEW Collision, and then of course Sunday. And I just realized that this Sunday, being the 4th, being January the 4th, will be New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom event. And while I know some of the American fans may not necessarily know as much about the Japanese wrestling scene, as it were, there are some AEW talents who will be participating in that event, as well as some major news stories going down. But first off, let's take a look at let's start off with last night's Impact. We'll go from there. As on last night's Impact, which was held at the El Paso County Coliseum in El Paso, Texas, with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainwalt on commentary, which I believe, and I believe it's one of the last episodes that's to be shown on Access TV before they make the move to AMC. Opening match saw the former TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions, the Elegance brand of Heather and M by Elegance, defeat the team of the Angel Warriors of Xia Brookside and Knockouts World Champion Lei Ying Li. Could set up a possible Knockouts title match for, if Heather or M actually got the pin on Lei Ying Li. I don't know if that happened or not. Mustafa Ali of Order 4 defeated the Hometown Man. The Diamond Collective of Tessa Blanchard, Victoria Crawford, and Milo Moore defeated the team of Indy Hartwell, Jada Stone, and Jody Threat. In a three-way match for what I believe was set up a number one contender for, I guess it was the X Division title shot on the AMC premiere. Myron Reed of the Rascals actually the Rascals were in this. 3 of the 4 Rascals were involved in this three-way match, as it was Myron Reed versus his Rascals teammates Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, and Myron Reed won the match over the other two. And then in the main event, saw Frankie Kazarian successfully defend the TNA World Title against Bear Bronson, who of course had won the opportunity on a recent episode of Impact in a gauntlet match to earn this title shot. So big news for Bear Bronson, following his departure from a while back from AEW. So now let's go ahead and move on to Ring of Honor news, as Ring of Honor took place from the Hammerstein Ballroom last night with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. Opening match saw a tag team match in which Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito teamed with Jay Lethal to take on the Swirl in a match that ended up in a no contest. Then Brian Keith went one-on-one against Serpentico in a one-on-one match and defeated him. The MITs of Athena's MITs, minions in training of Billy Starks and Diamante, defeated the tag team of Diona Purrazzo of Ring of Honor Women's Pure Champion Diona Purrazzo and Madison Rayne. Following this match, it was announced that Madison Rayne would basically be retiring from in-ring competition. I think this was her last match. So Madison Rayne, who will still, I think, be involved with Ring of Honor as a coach, but this was her last match in which she came up short to MITs from Athena's MIT. Lance Archer making his return after coming back from being a part of the G1 or the World Tag League in New Japan, defeated Steve Gipke in 2.5 minutes. In a 6-man tag match, Commander, teaming with Top Flight of the Martin Brothers, Dante and Darius Martin, defeated Ring of Honor World 6-man tag champions Shane Taylor Promotions of... Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was just Shane Taylor Promotion. It wasn't the 6-man tag, as Carly Bravo and Sean Dean, the Infantry, 2/3 of the World 6-man tag, teamed with Ring of Honor Pure Champion Lee Moriarty to come up short against Commander and Top Flight. CMLL and Don Callis family member Hechicero defeated Aaron Solo. And the main event saw in a Fight Without Honor 6-man tag match, Dalton Castle and the Outrunners, Togo Floyd and Truth Magnum, defeated the M&M TV of Johnny TV and the M&M collection of Mansoor and Mason Madden with Tyra Valkyrie. So, and it's noted here, of course, as I just mentioned, that Madison Rayne announced her retirement from competing in the ring in a backstage segment with Deonna Purrazzo after the tag team match on the show. So, yeah, so there we go. So that's all that happened last night, of course. Madison Rayne, who, of course, much of her career was spent in TNA, where she was a multiple time, of course, a multiple time Knockouts Tag Team Champion. With that, with runs with, like I know, like one of her last stints in TNA was as part of the Influence with Tennille Dashwood. She also was part of the Beautiful People with Velvet Sky and can't even I can't even remember the other girl's name. But anyways, all right. So with that, now let's look ahead to tonight's SmackDown. Talk about what's going to be going down on night SmackDown. Is WWE, of course. Oh, some other news that came out of WWE. Of course, Chris Jericho is now a free agent, as it were, as he his contract with AEW expired this past Wednesday. He is now technically a free agent, and there's been a lot of speculation that he'll be coming to the WWE soon. Quite possibly as soon as this Monday night's Raw. But there's a lot of people who've been talking about him maybe making his return at Royal Rumble. So over the next few weeks here, Royal Rumble, of course, coming up at the end of the month here. I believe will be on Saturday, January 31st. So stuff to look forward to there. But as for tonight's SmackDown, coming from Buffalo, New York, just find that on the USA Network from the KeyBank Center in New York. So right now it was also announced that recently Michin had suffered a shoulder injury during the holiday tour they just had. So we don't know. Now this match was still originally scheduled to happen on the show here, in which Jade Cargill will be defending the WWE Women's title against Michin. We'll be waiting to see how that all pans out. Also on the match on the night, in an 8-woman tag match, you have on one side you have the WWE Women's Champions, Women Tag Team Champions, the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, teaming with Nia Jax and Lash Legend to take on former champs Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. And in the final match of the evening, in an ambulance match, Aleister Black is set to take on Damian Priest, and what many fans are hoping will be an end to this feud that didn't seem to go anywhere. Now, in an ambulance match, the idea is you're supposed to beat your opponent down to the point to where you're able to lock them in a ambulance and get them sent away via the ambulance. So that's all that's going down on tonight's SmackDown. Now to look ahead to tomorrow night's AEW Collision. See how that's going to all kind of pan out. As more of the fallout from World's End is expected to be going down on tomorrow night's Collision, as tomorrow night's Collision, coming from Arlington, Texas. Which will air on TNT. The matches that are already signed for tomorrow night's Collision, coming from the Esports Stadium, Arlington, Texas. You will see El Clone of the Don Callis family will be taking on a mystery opponent. Scorpio Sky of Skyflight will be taking on the Hurt Syndicate's Shelton Benjamin. Darby Allin will be taking on Wheeler Yuta of the Death Riders. And a women's tag team match, recent AEW signees Hyan and Maya World will be taking on the Timeless Love Bombs of Mina Shirakawa and four-time AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm. And what promises to be exciting match. Hyan and Maya World got signed to AEW after their match at World's End on the World's End pre-show against the Sisters of Sin. So. Oh, now with that being said, of course, hey, Big Shozo. Thanks for popping in. If you haven't already, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. All right, so as I said, there was one other big event coming up this Sunday over in New Japan, as there are some AEW talents participating in that event. That is why it's become one of the bigger events for New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom. And we will, let me just get to that. Wrestle King, of course, in the Tokyo Dome. So here are some of the matches for that. And that will be broadcast on TV Asahi. In the pre-show match, El Phantasmo, the current New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television champion, will be defending the title against Chris Brooks in a Rambo match for the Never Openweight six-man tag match. Master Wato, Toru Yano, and Yo will be defending the Never Openweight six-man tag team titles against the teams of Togi Makabe, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Tiger Mask. The fourth Tiger Mask. By the way, let's see. Kaisei Takechi, Shotomina, and Yuya Yomura. Some of you TNA fans may remember Yomura from his from his excursion to TNA back a few years ago. The Bishamon team of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi teaming with Oleg Boltin. Let's see. Also versus Team 100's Satoshi Kojima and Taichi teaming with Tomohiro Ishii. The House of Torture trio of Yoshinobu Kanamura, Ren Narita, and Sonata. And let's see. The Mighty Don't Kneel's trio of Hartley Jackson, Ryohei Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr., and the Bullet Club War Dogs trio of Clark Connors and Oscar and Yuto Issei. In a unification match for the IWGP Women's and New Japan Strong Women's title, Shiori, the current IWGP Women's Championship, will be taking on Stardom's Saya Kamatani, who is both the New Japan Strong Women's title and champion, as well as being the World of Stardom champion. Some are looking at this as a possible breakout match for Saya Kamatani, as she's been making a lot of big waves, and Stardom has had a very dominant year-plus run as World of Stardom champion. In a 10-man tag match pitting the United Empire versus Bullet Club, Andrade El Idolo, who recently was able to work his way out of the WWF's non-compete clause, teams with Callum Newman, Great O'Khan, Hinari, and a mystery partner, take on the Bullet Club War Dogs members of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Gorilla Mahoney, and also Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi. In a number one contendership four-way match to determine the number one contender for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Taiji Ishimura takes on former Junior Heavyweight Champion El Desperado, Sho from House of Torture, and Kosei Fujita from the Mighty Don't Kneel. In a never open weight title match, Evil will be taking on Aaron Wolf. And then in I guess another unification match for the IWGP World Heavyweight and IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship, Konosuke Takeshita defends the IWGP World Heavyweight title against Yota Tsuji, who will be defending the Global Heavyweight. Now, Yota Tsuji came out recently and had some pretty harsh comments towards Takeshita and AEW. He basically just believes that New Japan should sever ties with AEW, as he himself, Yota Tsuji, the current IWGP Global Champion, feels that there really is no benefit between the working relationship between AEW and New Japan. Now, for New Japan, they've had their spurts where they've had some of their talent come to the States and get some exposure on AEW, but they haven't really been, Gabe Kidd more recently, of course, with his matches with Darby Allin. But as with many of the cases with some of these partnerships that come about, some of these working relationships, it does always seem that one company kind of gets a big boost and the other kind of gets the. I mean, it was recently announced that TNA had renewed its working agreement with WWE, and there are a lot of fans who feel that TNA may be getting the shaft in that relationship, as it were. And I think Yota Tsuji, the current global heavyweight champion for New Japan, feels that that's kind of the same thing going on for New Japan with. Now, New Japan has had a history of working with companies before. They, of course, back in the 70s and 80s, worked with the WWF before it became the WWE, of course. And then in the early 90s, they worked with WCW, early and mid 90s there. Now they're working with AEW. But again, Yota Tsuji has just feels that it's not really to New Japan's benefit to be working with AEW. I think he feels that they're getting the shaft there. So he looks to probably bring back, and even though, of course, Konosuke Takeshita is Japanese, he's more of an AEW talent than anything else. So, and then in the main event, we'll see in his retirement match, Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on one of his greatest rivals from over the years, Kazuchika Okada. Okada, of course, the current AEW International Champion, not defending that title here. Okada recently dropped the Continental title to Jon Moxley in the finals of the Continental Classic. But yeah, you have Okada, you have Takeshita, and Andrade El Idolo, all representing AEW in this upcoming Sunday's card there. All right, so with that being said, I think that's all I have for the wrestling wrap up. With that being said, of course, for today being January 2nd, 2026, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So, first thing we're going to do here, of course, we're going to go back 75 years ago, back to 1951, as on this date back in 1951, as soon as I pull it up here, 75 years ago today, the 125th issue of Walt Disney's Comics and Stories from Dell Comics went on sale on this date back in 1951. Sold for 10 cents and 48 pages. So this was back in the day, of course, when Dell was doing comic adaptations of other IPs. In this case, Walt Disney. So on this date, back in 1951, 75 years ago today, the 125th issue of Dell's Walt Disney Comics and Stories went on sale on its date back in 1951, sold for 10 cents, and was 48 pages. All right, so with that being said, let's get ready to move on to the next piece in each history. As we move ahead to the year 1976, which was, of course, 50 years ago today, back in 1976. Group TAC's adaptation of Huckleberry Finn premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 1976. So 50 years ago today, Group TAC's adaptation of Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, went on sale on this date back in 1976. Huckleberry no Boken is a Japanese animated television series based on the 1884 novel Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. It aired on Fuji Television Network every Friday evening from January 2nd, 1976, to June 25th of the same year, for a total of 26 episodes. It is the first of two Huckleberry film anime. A second Huck film series was made in 1994, Huckleberry Finn Monogatari, which means the story of a feature-length English dub of the series was made in the early 1980s, broadcast on cable TV in the United States. English dub version for the episodic TV version of Huckleberry Finn was owned by Saban Entertainment in 1993, as with most of the programming library and properties of Saban Entertainment and Fox Children's Productions. The rights to the series was owned by Disney Enterprises through BBS Entertainment, Buena Vista, who acquired the Fox Kids Worldwide franchise in summer 2001. So, some episodes of Saban's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, were released on Region 2 DVD by Maximum Entertainment in the 2000s. All right. So, anyways, so that's pretty much. So, on this date, 50 years ago today, Group TAC's adaptation of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn from Mark Twain went on, premiered on Japanese television on this date 50 years ago. Alrighty then, and finally, on this date in 2006, so just 20 years ago today, I'll bring that up, the Go Home Raw, so WWE held its Go Home show before New Year's Revolution pay-per-view that year, in which was done by the Raw brand. So on 50 years ago today, from the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event, which was a go-home event before the New Year's Eve pay-per-view. Opening match saw Kane defeat Shawn Michaels in 40 minutes 10 seconds. Maria defeated Victoria in a minute and a half. Chris Masters defeated Shelton Benjamin in 4.5 minutes. Kurt Angle with Arya Daivari Daivari in his corner defeated John Cena in a first blood match. John Cena, I believe, would be defending the WWE championship in a elimination chamber match that following Sunday. On commentary, you had Jerry Lawler, Joey Styles, and Jonathan Coachman, Tony Chimmel doing the ring announcing. So there you go. All right. So with all that being said, I thank everybody for being here. So let's see now. Well, before we head out, let me just talk a little bit more here. See if we can get as close to 56 minutes as we can here. So I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here on Sunday with my my co-host will be Rick Piper from Cross Comics. He will be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye there, Fishozo. We'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane, as we'll be, and of course, we'll be looking. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale in July of 1940. From this week, we'll be focusing in on Holyoke. We'll be looking at the final issue of Whirlwind Comics from Holyoke, as well as the 4th issue of Crash Comics. There'll be, of course, some of the features we'll be reading will include Cyclone, Strongman, and we'll be introducing everybody to Catman, spelled with a hyphen, CAT-MAN. Introducing everybody to Holyoke's version of Catman. So with that being said, and of course we'll be back on Monday. I'll be, giving you, aside from catching you all up on all the latest and neat news, we'll be, of course, caught up on all the weekends wrestling action. We'll have some more, and then of course Sunday and Monday we'll have editions of, this weekend and this day in each history, of course. I'll be looking forward to that over the next few days. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.